Story. Tilda. A few weeks later. Tilda. How do I look? You look beautiful, Ari, I said as she twirled in her dress for homecoming. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa, she said and hugged both Deku and I. Thank your mother. I have no fashion sense whatsoever, Izu said with a chuckle. I merely smiled back. The girls actually helped Eri, especially Tori and Mina. Eri nodded in argument and then turned around. Hey Mama, hey Papa, I didn't want to tell you but that got me thinking. Was Uncle Kirishima taking care of the baby then, and Uncle Ojiro? Midoriya nodded. Yeah, the babies wear a handful. I don't know how you women do it, but we were able to get the hang of it pretty quickly, he said as he turned to look at me. Eri smirked and smiled. When do I get a sibling? She said proudly as Izu and I blushed hard. Eri, I snapped back embarrassed. I'm already about 3 months in, so sooner than you think. Izu gave an awkward smile and merely gave Eri her bag that she was talking to homecoming. When your mom and I are ready, he said with a smile. I blushed pink and smiled at what he said. Should I tell him? Suddenly we all heard a knock on the door and Izuku opened it to see Kota all dressed up in a black and white suit. I guess Deku could tell that he was nervous because he started interrogating Kota. Eri and I stood to the side and smiled at each other when I felt sick all of a sudden. I quickly walked to the kitchen and drank a glass of water. Hi Mrs. Midoriya, Kota said as he waved at me. I waved back. Hi Kota. Take care of Eri, okay? I said quickly before I threw up. Izu looked at me with a worried look and he quickly turned back to Kota. Take care of Eri, okay Kota? Kota nodded and Izu turned to Eri. Have good dance, sweetie, he said, kissing her on the forehead. If something happens, remember to use your quirks, okay? Eri and Kota both agreed and they left quickly as Izu ushered them out. As soon as they left the house, Izu rushed over to my side and held my hand. Ochako, are you okay? He asked with worry in his eyes. I'm fine, I said softly, finishing yet another glass of water. I straightened my back and started walking when I felt sick again. Izu caught me and I immediately covered my mouth with my hand. Ochako, I heard him say as I rushed to the bathroom. I leaned down and threw up a bit and I felt Izu holding up my hair as I did so. After I finished, I sat down next to the toilet as I flushed down the vomit and I closed the cover. Izu sat down next to me, wiped my mouth, and we stared at each other. He's so sweet, I love him. Ochako, I heard him say softly. What's going on? He asked as he hugged me. Promoted stories. You'll also like, Out of Time. 20.8K 503. The world was left in chaos after AFO killed last wielder of One for All. Siblings Hiroaki and Reiko are sent to warn their parents of an impending disaster. The Pro, Ochako needs help. 27K591. All the girls in the 1A class have decided enough is enough. They are going to help Ochako confess to her crush. One way or another. Never Stop Fighting MCSM Gestra fanfiction. 18K343. After the Witherstorm and Sky City problem, Jesse quickly find themselves in a new adventure, and it was a tough one. Jesse and Petra had gotten closer, and eventually Murder Drone Stories incorrect quotes. 20.7K 274. Little random stories kinda like one shots. Oh well, this became Oni shots and incorrect quotes. Very slow updates. I don't write fanfics much anymore. One last shot, a Mineta Redemption fanfic. 10K168. This is a Mineta Redemption fanfic. If you hate Mineta, I advise you to not read this. Mineta had just done one of his biggest schemes, and the girls had enough. Izawa T. The Lion Guard. Age of the Dinosaurs number 1. 4.3K69. Scar has returned while the Lion Guard start facing some creatures. They make an adventure in their lands while making a rescue attempt when Kiera was captured by those CR. Secrets 14.6k 1.1k. Manik and Nandini, two strangers, meet on a trip. They instantly hate each other. The intensity of the hate is such that one can burn the other by a look in the other one. I hugged him back as I tried to find my words. Izu, you know, about 3 months ago. Izu looked at me and nodded. Well, I blushed pink and I grabbed his hand. I'm kinda pregnant, I said softly with a slight smile on my lips. I finally told him. I watched as Izu flushed a shade of pink and he gave me a worried smile. Is that why you are sick? He asked, confused. Yeah, I responded, taken back from his reaction. Izu immediately hugged me. We're going to have a child, he said excitedly, and he kissed me on my forehead as he brushed my hair away. Why didn't you tell me, Sonnet? I could have started preparing both mentally and physically. We have so much to do, to buy. How are we going to telephone Ari? Do you know its gender? You said 3 months ago, so are you 3 months in? Also, why are you feeling sick? Is it because of? I placed my finger on his mouth and I chuckled. You're cute when you're thinking, but. I held his hand and took a deep breath. Slow down, honey. Izu blushed again and he nodded. Sorry, but. Why didn't you tell me? I. I quickly looked away as I felt guilty. I felt Izu get closer to me and he held my hands. Well, I began. You've been caught up with all your hero work and I didn't want to add on to your worries. Also because Aries' homecoming was coming up and I didn't want to steal the spotlight from her or from Jiro, who got married a couple weeks ago. I stopped finishing my explanation. Izu sighed as I began to trace the scars on his hand. Ochako, your health is more important to me than my job, he finally said, his forest green eyes looking at me with such warmth and worry that it made me bit my lip. I heard Izu chuckle as he continued to look at me. You know Aries wanted siblings since a long time ago, so you should have known she wouldn't mind it. And Jiro wouldn't mind if one of her friends was pregnant. Izu slowly moved his hands to touch my stomach. It's our child Ochako, he said softly. I think Aries going to be happy to find out. I smiled softly. Izuku's hand had always been so full of earth and kindness, but having him stare at me like this was way too much for me to handle. My face started to heat up, but I didn't look away this time. Instead, I placed my hand on top of his. Thank you, Izu, I said, and we both hugged each other. After a while, Izu helped me off of the floor and I brushed my teeth. Meanwhile, Izu began worrying about my every step all of a sudden. Hey, Izu. Yeah, he said, holding my hand as I walked to the kitchen. I'm not fragile, I won't break. I saw as he blinked at me and shook his head. I don't even wish for a scratch to land on you. You're my wife, Ochako. Let me take care of you, he said earnestly. I sighed. Okay, but you better take care of me when the baby is born too, I stated, remembering how tired Mina when she had her child. Of course, he paused. We're going to have to tell our friends, family, and, he paused again and blushed, all might. He glanced at me with an embarrassed look written all over his face. I giggled back at him. I know how much Izu sees All Might as his father figure. I wonder how they are going to react this time. After all, just remember how they reacted to Eri. I smirked. Hey, Izu. Yeah, how many children do you want? Izu flushed red and he turned away from me as he cleared his throat. Ochako. I giggled again, watching the cute blushing boy, just like we wear at UA. Movie? I asked him. He seemed surprised but nodded nonetheless. Why not? Tilda. Few months later, Tilda. Uncle Kachan, Eri said with a smile on her face. Bakugo looked at her and tried to look like he was uninterested, but he couldn't help but smile. What do you want? He said while messing up her hair. Hey, Eri said with a pout, I'm not a little kid anymore. Bakugo just nodded and then looked at both Izu and I, who were walking up. Hi Kachan. Izu said with a smile. Bakugo gave a tisk and then looked at me. Hi Bakugo. I said with a smile. How's you love life doing huh? Not as fast as your own, already living together during high school. He tsked at me but then did a double check as he looked at me. Wah. Izu immediately smiled and grabbed my hand. Ochako's pregnant. You're pregnant? He yelled. Who else know about this? He stated as he calmed down. Only you, Izu, Eri, and Sue, know right now. Wait, is this the reason why you're inviting everyone to a party at your guy's house today? Also, why the fuck did you tell me before everyone else? Well, I said and nodded. Kachan, you've been my friend since elementary school, so of course I would tell you. Plus, I thought it would be better practice before I tell everyone, including our parents, and Izu gulped, All Might. Bakugo looked at Izu with an uninterested face as he yawned and then he snicked. All Might's going to be a grandpa again. Izu looked away shyly. All Might's not my dad though. Keep telling yourself that, Deku, Bakugo said, and then he started to walk away towards Eri with his hands in his pocket. Oi, is All Might your grandpa? Eri smiled. Yup, see, he said and looked at Izuku. I sighed. Izu, we all know how you feel now. I clapped my hands together. Bakugo, are you going to the party? He looked at me. Sure. I smiled and nodded back and then looked at Eri and Izu. I'm happy that Izu and Bakugo's relationship has gotten better. Well, Ochako, Eri and I have to get ready for the party, late Kachan. Izu said with a wave as we started heading out. Shut up, Deku. We heard from him shout as we left. Well, their relationship has somewhat improved. All of us snickered at Bakugo's reaction as we got in the car. A couple minutes into the drive, Eri spoke up. Hey mama. Yeah, Eri, will I have a baby sister or baby brother? I paused and looked at Izu, who was starting up the car. We don't know yet, Eri, he said with a smile on his lips. Oh, she stated. Hey papa. Yeah, well, since we are having a party today, I was wondering if I could, invite Kota over. I watched as Izu's face turned into a scowl and I giggled as I responded to Eri before Izu could answer. Of course you can, Eri. Ochako, he said shocked. Izuku Midoriya, we started living together when we were their age, plus we had a daughter already. Having Kota over for a party is nothing compared to all that we went through, unless you are saying you regret all that, I said with a pout. Izu stayed silent and sighed as he glanced at me for a second. Fine, he smiled at me for a second before turning his eyes back on the road. I love you, Okako. I blushed slightly at the sudden confession. I love you too, Izuku. After that, Izuku parked the car in front of our house. Eri smiled from the back seat. I'm a text Cora then, she said and hopped put of the car. You have his number, Izu. But honey, you're too cute, but that won't change my mind, Izu. She's a teenager, let her be free. Besides, they've already fought to homecoming together, I said as I got out of the car and Izu followed shortly after. He hugged me from behind. Okay, fine, but can I have a kiss then? He asked with a soft voice. I blinked and turned to look at him. His face was red and he was trying to hide the fact that he was embarrassed. Sure, I said happily and gave him a quick peck and then I turned swiftly inside the house. Ochako, I heard behind me forward with the sound of the door closing, as he ran after me and grabbed my hand as he pulled me towards him. We both looked at each other and we kissed softly until we heard a knock on the door. Oh, that's probably Sue, I said, parting from the kiss and heading towards the door to open it. Ochako-chan, Sue said and she hugged me. Sue, I said as I hugged her back. Why does Midoriya look so sad, Kiro? She said. Looked behind me. I turned to see Izu looking at me longingly and I blushed as he smiled. I'm going to go prepare the food. Nice to see you, Asui. he said, heading towards the kitchen. He never calls me Sue. Hiro, she said, and then looked at me. How are you, Okako-chan? Tired, happy, and I cannot wait to tell everyone the good news. I let Sue in and we both started helping Izu in the kitchen despite his protests. Eri came down from her room to help us after a while and we were able to get everything ready for the party. Izu, Eri, and I changed into a new set of clothes before the party. After we finished we started watching a TV show until we heard a knock on the door. Who do you think it is, Izu? I asked, smiling. Izu looked at me nervously. Hopefully our friends. I don't think I'm ready to face your parents or mine, especially not All Might. Eri ran to the window, peeked out as a big smile formed on her mouth, and then she ran to the door and opened it. Grandpa All Might. She shouted with a wide smile. I looked at Izu, who immediately gripped my hand, and he looked as nervous as ever. Eri welcomed All Might in and he smiled at both Izu and I. Midoriya Shonen. All Might, Izu responded, gripping my hand harder. Well, let's see how this goes. Blank, underscore, blank, underscore, I'm still alive, I swear. I just got lazy, had writer's block, and was very busy. I'm so sorry, everyone. I think the next chapter is going to be my last one, an epilogue if you will, and it is going to wrap everything up. I will get it out as soon as I can. That's all I have to say, so,